Now, we know this is a very historic trial in the state of Texas, something we have not seen in the Lone Star State in more than a century, and it certainly is a complicated one. So to help us break it all down is Cal Jillson, a political science professor from SMU, to help us unpack it all. First of all, thank you for joining us this morning, Cal.
Thank you, Mark.
So let's break down what Paxton is accused of, because you had 20 articles, 16 that are up right now, 4,000 pages worth of documents. If you want to sift through it all, there is a lot to soak in here.
Yeah, there is a lot to soak in. There were 20 charges in the indictment that came out of the House, and they had to do with abuse of office, mostly, particularly the first half dozen or so, the way in which Ken Paxton used the Attorney General's office to help Nate Paul, a developer and contributor to his campaigns. There are some elements of bribery as well. So they're serious charges, and we are going to see a full trial, apparently.
And just to be clear for our viewers, it's not a criminal trial. Rather, the result of this could be possible removal from office. Can you break down for our viewers just how this trial is set up, how it's going to work?
Yeah, it's important to recognize that this is not a judicial proceeding where you have a judge and you have a jury and there are various rules of evidence, that sort of thing. This is a legislative process. The impeachment articles were passed by the Texas House 121 to 23. Texas House is majority Republican, so lots of Republicans voted for these impeachment charges, and now you've got a majority Republican Senate, 19 to 12 Republican, that will hear evidence and vote serially on each of these charges as to whether or not to convict Attorney General Paxton. And so for the next couple of weeks, we're going to hear that evidence. What we saw this morning was a dozen or so votes by the Paxton side to dismiss all or some of these impeachment articles. All of them, as your reporter said, failed. Only one of them got 10 votes, which would block a 2/3 vote to convict. So right now, we're going to just about getting ready to hear from Lieutenant Governor Patrick on some motions that he'll decide upon. And then there will be opening statements by the prosecution and by the Paxton side.
And we know that those opening statements, both sides will get 60 minutes to make those statements. But looking back at the voting process, we know it would take a 2/3 majority to get Paxton out of office. Now, when you go back to the original impeachment effort by the House back in May, you saw a lot of Republicans vote for impeachment here. Is there anything in reading the tea leaves there that may indicate just how this trial may go?
Yeah, the House vote, month or so ago was 121 to 23, which means that more than half of Republicans in the Texas House voted to impeach the Attorney General. And now we've got a trial in the Senate. And on the first vote to dismiss all the charges, it was something like 15 to 6 or 14 to 6. So it was a lopsided margin not to dismiss the charges. Now we're going to hear evidence and testimony, and it will take all the Democrats, 12 Democrats, and 9 Republicans voting to sustain one of these impeachment charges to remove the Attorney General from office. And what we've seen so far, we haven't seen evidence yet. So once the evidence is also put out there publicly, it's fairly difficult to see how the Attorney General is not convicted on one or more counts.
We have talked about how historic this is because you have only seen 2 Texas officials be impeached before. It's been quite a while. How much of this procedure had to be figured out before things got started today?
Yeah, there was an impeachment of a statewide official back in the 1880s, and then another one in 1917. And then a judge was impeached 50 years or so ago. So this is something that very rarely happens. And each time it does happen, a set of rules is passed to direct the impeachment process. A lot of similarity with previous impeachments, but some of the rules are slightly different. we're seeing so far today a very cautious and careful conduct of this early impeachment process by Lieutenant Governor Patrick. But pretty soon we're going to get into a more open presentation of witnesses and evidence with some pretty high-powered lawyers shooting at each other. So it's going to get a lot more exciting than it's been so far this morning.
Well, that's how we do things here in Texas Big. Cal Jillson, thank you for your analysis this morning. You know, trying to read the tea leaves, it's hard to tell how this thing's going to shake out, but maybe we'll get a little bit more insight as things proceed. Of course, we are offering extensive coverage of this trial that you will not get anywhere else. Right now, investigative reporter Tanya Iser for WFAA is live streaming on our streaming app, WFAA Plus, and you can catch her on our digital channels as well, like on Facebook and YouTube, as she's joined by political experts throughout this trial with insight and analysis of that testimony, which is upcoming.